This ring light together.
We live.
All right.
But yeah. So yes, I did. I came back from a cruise yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll be leaving tomorrow.
Okay.
So it's carnival time.
That's in one of the
Trinidad.
islands there, right? Trinidad. Oh, okay.
It's the first time that it has been back since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the last time it was in 2020, which I actually went. So I went, and then I normally go to another island before or after, like around it. So I
Okay.
went to Carnival in Trinidad,
Mm-hmm.
came back, went to well, no, not came back. Went to Carnival from Trinidad. I went to Barbados.
Okay.
Came back from Barbados
Mm-hmm.
March 1st. 2 weeks later,
Mm. Lock,
everything shut down.
lock down, honey. Lock down.
Mhm.
Yes. You
Two
said
weeks later, everything shut down. I was like,
that. Mhm.
whoa.
Yes. We all have our pre and post COVID stories, right? Everything is like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic.
Yeah, so it's like so big, and I'm so happy and excited to be going again. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Grace should have told me to wear my FinCon shirt. I
Honestly, I just happen to have this shirt on today. I promise you, I just happen to have this shirt on.
uh
It was not planned. Obviously, I've had a crazy day because I've only been here 3 days, so I've had to do
yeah.
a lot of stuff in these 3 days.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it was not planned at all. I promise you.
Okay. That's cool.
I promise it's not. I didn't set you up.
Not a problem.
But yeah. Who was you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
I wasn't rooting for anybody. We had two black quarterbacks. Anybody who won would have been good with me. It was a good game. I think Riri did her job and her thing, even though
I do
people
too.
are talking about. I'm like,
From a
y'all
business
perform.
from a business standpoint, Riri killed the game.
What?
Like I was over there with my pen and my notebook. Like,
Yes.
okay, so she did what?
Right. Exactly.
Why did she do that again? Okay, wait a minute. You did what now, Riri?
Right.
From a business
What I
standpoint,
loved about it.
Riri killed the
Oh,
game.
I'm sure she did. Because she don't
Between her
play. That's
stopping
what the
and
thing
putting her makeup on, between her stopping and putting her makeup on, they
is.
said that the searches for Fenty makeup has surged because of that.
Really? Wow. See, we was already on it, baby. We was already on it. We keep our Fenty right next
She
to the computer.
has struck a deal with NFL, so she has like specific Fenty like hoodies and NFL gear.
Wow.
Yes, like some people were not happy with her performance, but Riri was checking that bag, and
But
she paid a tribute
yeah.
to the journalist, the fashion journalist that passed away in early 2022. That's why she had the big red coat on. She was
Okay.
paying
I
tribute,
wasn't
paying
aware.
homage to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah. See, I know a lot of the elements, when they do these performances, it's not just about them singing songs, everything that they have. So I'm sure the elevated stages, the people with the white coats on, all of that. One of the things that I feel like she did is she took up space. She took up all the space in the air, the space on the field.
and that's one of my favorite songs. Take up space, sis.
Mm,
With this, yes,
yeah, she did it. She was very
yes,
tired for them.
she did it.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people, they've been talking about her all day, and she should have did this and she should have did
and
that.
see, she doesn't care. Yeah, it sounds like she's lip syncing. So
Okay, and if she is, you know she know how to sing.
that part.
She whole pregnant. She would have
Whole
been out of breath.
that part.
You
Like a
know,
lot
you pregnant, you could barely walk up one step
that part.
without pain, huffing and puffing.
But wait a minute. I was looking at her dance and I was like, okay, as you get a little bit older, your joints start aching a little bit. And I was like, okay, so that's what I have to do. I got to bring me an entourage. Well, they can do all the, and I can just kind of like, just look like I'm moving with them. I was like, love it. Love it, love it, love it.
So we're gonna go ahead and get started and get into it. I just like to check to make sure that that I'm live.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can hear me. I normally get an email from YouTube. Okay, I did. Okay. I just like to check, make sure. So yes, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So today we are talking all about HOAs. Welcome to the Money Mastery Academy. Let me turn my notifications because this Facebook is what's making those notifications. Let me turn it off. Well, not turn it off, but close those windows. So welcome to the Money Mastery Academy. Today, we are talking about HOAs. So in my book, Life is Short, Buy the House, one of the topics I talk about is things that you should consider if you're going to purchase a condominium or if you're going to purchase a property that has an HOA. An HOA is a homeowners association. So this could be a condo association or it can be a homeowners association, but they're very similar. And then in a lot of areas, so in Chicago, we don't have as many as other areas, but when you go to places like Dallas, I've seen it in Fort Lauderdale, a lot of places in Florida, Texas, Atlanta, they have a lot of like communities, and those communities have homeowners associations. So if you're purchasing or you're looking to purchase somewhere that has like a pool and a playground and a community center and a community room and those type of things, a lot of times those type of communities or structures, they come with the homeowners association because those things have to be managed. That pool has to be maintained. You have to come and make sure the chemicals are on point so that pool is safe for you to use. So somebody has to pay for those things and pay for those maintenance. So I brought company as usual. I always got backup. So I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself and tell you all about her. But this is Cecilia, and go ahead and let them know what you do.
Okay, well, thank you, Nia. So happy to be here. So my name is Cecilia Bailey. I am a financial educator, coach, and trainer. I am the author of a Money Bootcamp, a guide to whipping your finances into shape, which is a book to do just that, to help you with all of the basics to getting your financial house in order. So I am delighted to be here. I've been over 25 years in the game of personal finance and know that this is a topic that could touch and affect, and impact people. So when I ran into Nia, it's like, let's talk about it so we can help people to make the best decisions they can and not let this impede their financial progress. So that's me.
Yes. So thank you so much for coming and sharing this knowledge with us. One of the things that we're really big about at the Money Mastery Academy is just having conversations. These are conversations that should be had regularly. These are conversations that we should talk about. And if you're someone who's looking to purchase or you want to purchase and you're considering like, what should I purchase? And you don't know, then this is definitely something for you to listen to so you can make that decision. Because ultimately, if you live anywhere that has a homeowner association, it's going to have a big effect on your living situation, what rules you have to follow. So that's one of the things I do. So just to open up the conversation, one of the things I do in my book, Life is Short, Buy the House, is I compare purchasing a house compared to purchasing a condominium. And I give people a few tips and tricks that you should consider if you're going to purchase somewhere that has any type of homeowner association. So for example, one of those things are you have to have somebody look at those financials. So this is going to vary in different states. Like in Florida, sometimes they have rules that the bank, you have to put an additional amount of money down in order for them to allow the bank to look at their financials. So you have to research. This is one of my steps of preparing for homeownership. You have to research in your area what rules they are, but you want to be able to look and see that they're financially sound. And one of the things about being financially sound is, are they living paycheck to paycheck? So you have to pay dues when you live in these type of associations, and that's what helps pay for those amenities. Well, do they have enough money to pay those dues? If somebody doesn't pay their dues, will that cause them to have a problem? If they have a big repair coming, will they solely have to just add extra money and come ask you for additional money? Or do they have money sitting and saving? So the same principles that you apply to your finances and your personal finances, you kind of want to look at some of those for the homeowners association.
Yeah, that is true because, there are a lot of homeowners associations, they operate on a very thin budget, right? And there could be some of those assessments that will come, such as, let's say if you're living in a condo, a townhome community, and the roofs need to be replaced. Well, that $5,000 annual assessment may not have been in your budget, but guess what? You got to get the roof. You know what I'm saying? And so I think part of the other process too, Nia, you bring up a good point about, people being financially sound. So you want to make sure that you have enough money to be able to afford these HOAs, but you also want to make sure that the HOA is sound, because you don't want to come in and they're responsible for paying certain things like utilities or whatever, and then the whole community goes under because no one was manning, the books on those particular things. Now, some people, they don't read through, the whole packet. Now, I was one who was really anxious to have an HOA because I came from a community where we did not. And you saw people painting their houses, green, blue, red, yellow, whatever. It was cars parked all outside, in the yard. They were putting up fences and all kinds of things that just didn't make sense. And so our only advocate was the city that we lived in. So, contacting, your city, your municipality's code enforcement was the only, plan, that we had. So I embraced, living, within an HOA community. But as you said, there are pros and cons, and, we're going to unravel, some of those.
Right. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. We're going to talk about both because it has some good benefits too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's really about you being educated on those benefits and basically being educated on the pros and cons so you can make an educated decision of if that's going to work for you within your goals and what you're trying to do. So for me personally, I come from a city that has multiple options. So I have the option to really decide, do I really want it or not? But you might not live in an area like that. So it might really just take you doing more research and deciding which one works best for you. It all depends on what area you live in. So just to give you a little bit more information, a special assessment. So when you have a condo or you live in one of these type of communities, you'll usually have dues that will be paid every single month. Now, this will be outside of your mortgage payment, mortgage, taxes, insurance. This will be an additional payment that will be made every month. And this is a part of your dues for that association. This is you basically a part of your membership. This is your money you're putting into the pot every month to help cover these community properties and access areas. But as you said, if there's a roof or something that needs to be purchased or some type of big repair and there's not funds left in the homeowners association's accounts, then they will give a special assessment, which means that like she said, if it's a $5,000, so she used a $5,000, they're going to take that $5,000 and divide it by 12. And then each owner within that community will have that additional amount to pay in addition to your dues, in addition to your mortgage payment. So again, these are the type of things that you want to think about because you want to make sure that you have your finances in order before making a purchase as a whole, because these are the type of additional expenses you might not be budgeting for that you will be experiencing.
Yeah. And a good agent is going to tell you. So if you are, looking to purchase, a condo, because sometimes, the HOA fees can be just as much as the mortgage. Just like, oh, I found this house and it was this condo and it's like $125,000, but the HOA is like $500 a month. Right. Now, many times, Nia, in single family communities, those are assessed on an annual basis. So you'll have like the beginning of the year or whenever it's assessed, and you've got that one fee. Some associations will allow you to split those up, maybe do 2 payments or to pay quarterly or whatever. But when I tell you, and there's a lot of folks that don't know, they think that it's separate, that nothing can happen to me. Like, this is my house, whatever I want to do. When you try and go and sell the house, guess what? The HOA is coming for theirs first.
Yes, ma'am.
And when the legal team gets involved, the fees go up and up and up. You could owe, I don't know, maybe, $500 or $600, but now you have to pay an attorney to get involved. And now that goes up from $500 to $2,500. And then it just keeps on climbing because, the fees are adding up. So the best thing to do, I say with anybody, like you said, please understand what you have before you even go in, and make sure that it does align with what you can afford. And then if you're running into any trouble, call people, call the property management company, the president of the HOA, figure out something to work out something, because on the other side of everything is a person. Is a person. And and most time people want to help, but you have to make sure that if you do hit a bump in the road, that you're calling people to let them know, hey, I need a little extra, because a lot of things happen, right? People lose their jobs. I mean, I sat on our HOA board for a year last year. I'm taking a break right now, but there are special situations that come up. I mean, and you're not gonna demand that somebody do something to their yard when both people just lost their job. It's like, okay, let's hold off on the fees. Let's give you a break. Let's just figure out, how to do this. So just communicate.
So Debt-Free Dad, I don't know. Did you meet Debt-Free Dad at FinCon?
I'm not sure. The name doesn't sound familiar.
Well, he's a part of
Debt-Free Dad. Okay, yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, he's a part of FinCon family. He says, good evening, all. I hate HOAs. My HOA went to ish funds, was all messed up. It was cool when I lived in the state once I moved. It was a mess. I sold that rental at the top of the market in 2021. Well, kudos to selling it at the top of the market. I have heard a lot of HOA horror stories, which is one of the reasons why I thought this was a good idea. So he was like, "Ooh, we should go live and talk about HOAs and share information," especially her as being someone who's been on the board of an HOA. So I thought that was a great topic, because I've heard a lot of bad stories, but a lot of people live in locations that is not a lot of options outside of HOAs. So what are you to do? Educate yourself. That's always the best thing. Educate yourself and learn about them. So like I say, one tip I give when you're preparing for home ownership is to research. Another one is building your team. Like she said, a good realtor will educate you on these things, will tell you. I always tell people, don't just look at the price of the house. You have taxes to consider. If you're buying a condo or in one of these communities, you have dues to consider. So don't just only look at, oh, this house costs $150,000. No, it doesn't, because you got to go how much of the taxes, how much of your home insurance going to be. Like all of those things will affect how much money is coming out of your pocket every month. So you should be aware of them and very mindful of them. So let's talk about a positive thing. So we're going to basically play tennis. We're going to play tennis and go back and forth. So one is
tennis is one of the things. Tennis is one of the positive things, right? Because tennis,
I need to do that on purpose.
All right. Tennis courts, Nia,
so
those amenities, tennis courts. You mentioned a community center. You mentioned, swimming pools, all of those things. If you don't have access to that within your direct community, like a YMCA or whatever, then those are the things that you can say, this works for me,
Right. And that's the thing. If you have a family, you have multiple children, the YMCA membership is very expensive. So to have a pool, a fitness center, those things and that convenience might be something that works really well for you. Maybe the gym you like to go. Okay, so hold on. We're going to get to his first. So I also should mention Debt-Free Dad is a lawyer. So he is a good person to talk to about this, because that's one of the things I recommend people do. Have your attorney read their rules, the bylaws, and all of those things before you purchase, so you can know what you're agreeing to do for 30 years. Like, what are you agreeing that you're going to abide by? How tall?
And you should. I think that's a great suggestion. But in addition to that, you should also read them yourself and really highlight that. Now, I know that because I was really excited about coming to live in an HOA community, because I knew that no one was going to be parking in their yards.
Well, yeah, but usually you would go over it with your attorney, because the real, just being realistic as someone who works and deals with a lot of legal, documents, a lot of times it's hard for the regular person to read a legal document, because they kind of talk around themselves in circles and they use all these different terms. So,
now the one thing that I know, and it's different in each state, right? So we don't see our attorney until the closing. So we're working with our agents here in Georgia, for the most part.
If they opted on their own to hire an attorney, they wouldn't be allowed to?
Oh yeah, they can. Oh, absolutely. No, they can definitely hire their own, attorney to represent them. But generally, the realtor has enough knowledge of Georgia laws to be sufficient. I've bought 2 houses. I've never had an attorney, just my real estate agent.
Mhm.
But there are some of the do's and don'ts in that covenant that are really plain language. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you're
So like
going to
this,
know and
look at the
understand.
covenants and restrictions filed with the clerk office.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, but yeah, so for me, it was given to me. So that was a document that was handed off. I had to sign off on that. So the seller that was part of the work, I had to initial every single page of that document, So
Of
if
the
somebody
restrictions
comes
that
in
they filed
here,
with the clerk office, they gave you a copy of them?
no, my attorney, my real estate agent. So with the purchase and sale agreement, the HOA covenant and bylaws came with that. It was like, okay, here's our purchase and sale agreement. Here is, because you have to agree to all of it, right? They don't want to sell the house and be like, oh yeah, we're not going to tell her about this. So I was made aware of all of the things, early on.
And
So
that's good. And I don't know if all
Mhm.
states are like that.
Yeah,
In
maybe
different
we're a little
states, you
spoiled.
might have different rules and laws, and
I'm
then,
sure.
especially in some instances, they may not provide you with all of them.
Mhm,
So I do
mhm.
think it's good to do some, CYA at the end of the day, and do
Absolutely.
some of your own checking, because at
Mhm,
the end, you're the one who's going to be living by these rules for this period of time. So I just feel
mhm.
like it's really good to double check and make sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Because they're not, you're right, they're not all created equal.
they're
And
not.
mhm,
And then, so I recently found out too, in California has a lot of rules that protect the consumer, and they're very strict on making sure the seller discloses a lot of things.
mhm, mhm,
But same thing, all states are, every state is different, and different
mhm,
markets are different.
mhm.
Hey, Ms. Manny, I'm planning to buy a house, and I know HOAs are prevalent in the Atlanta metro area. So how do you
Mhm.
approach asking the question of how financially sound the HOA is in the community you're considering living in? Oh, that's a good question.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah, and Cecilia's in Atlanta, so this is a good question.
yes, that is a great question. Well, here's the thing. So I learned that our association has to present a budget every year. And
Good. Okay.
so one of the things, yeah, so that budget is set, by us, by the board,
Hmm.
and it's agreed upon by, the community, meaning those, well, not necessarily agreed upon. Let me take that back. So it's established by the board. We present it to the community. If there's any questions or things that look suspicious or concerns, what have you, the community has the right to state, their concerns about that. That's recorded in the records, and that property management company has a list of all of the meetings that we've had, all of the changes to the budgets, the reason, for the budget or what have you. So that would be a super informed buyer if you came in and said, hey, I
Ask for
want
it.
to get a copy of the most recent budget, because you do want to see if it's financially solvent,
Hmm.
if they have those reserves, like, where we are now, we have reserves set up for the next 3 years. In not in case of inflation, because of
Right,
inflation.
exactly. It's in the case of at this point.
Yeah,
As a
and
result
because
of.
yeah, as a result of. And so because there are different things that has to be done within the next, 3 years. So we had somebody come in, they did a whole, I don't know if it was a feasibility study. No, that's not what it's called. It's going to come to me in a minute. But reserve study is what it was. It was a reserve study. It's like, look, the tennis courts are this old, the tennis lights are this old. This is this old. The community center's roof needs to be replaced. And so that means that in said years, this is how much you're going to have from every homeowner in order for this to happen. And so, yeah, tennis lights, they're not sexy, but guess what?
They need to be
If you're
maintained.
saying, right, if you're saying that you have this as an amenity, it can't be, one light is working. So, you just have to to make sure that it's there. But that's a great, great
That's a good
question.
question. So yes, you want
Mhm.
to ask for it. And like she said, you'll be a very informed
Ooh,
owner
yes.
if you
Very
ask for it and
informed
you get a
buyer.
chance to review it. And because you know about budgets, Amy, I know you know about budgets, then you'll
Mhm.
know how to read that budget that they give you. And
Mhm.
you'll be able to understand the numbers that are on there, and what they mean and what they tell you. Because that's one of the things too.
Mhm.
When they give you things or give you documents, you have to be able to understand what that document means. And depending on the person, you know, if you're not familiar or you're not very knowledgeable in that aspect, you want to do your due diligence and find out and make sure you're understanding exactly what you're agreeing to. Because one of the things I see very often with condos or different, you know, properties like that is they don't allow you to have a business. So they might say that you can only use that dwelling for residential purposes, and you're not able to use it for any business income or any type of, you know, use outside of living. If you plan to open a daycare or you plan to, you know, then that's something that you want to think about, and you want to choose a different community. You want to choose a community that would allow you to do that. So that's why you just want to educate yourself. You know, it's not saying that all of them are inherently bad. It's just saying that you got to educate yourself. You got to look into it a little bit deeper into it instead of just blindly signing it because of the excitement of it all, because it can get very exciting and it's so many different parts.
So you bring up, that is a perfect point about.
I know somebody it just happened to. That's why it's a real life example of, I know somebody that experiences that is experiencing it right now, actually.
And the other thing too, Nia, is cars. And y'all hear me talking about the cars because I just feel like a garage is meant for a car. That's just me. Okay. So cars should not be parked on the street. So for example, so for here in this particular, you know, community, you can't leave your cars on the street for longer than 24 hours. And this is what I say to people who have a difficult time understanding that. What one person may do in moderation, somebody else will do in excess. So imagine, okay, yes, you got your child is home from school, you got, you know, stuff in the garage, you taking up 4 spaces on the parking pad already. But imagine if everybody did that. So if everybody had so the covenants are in place.
That would be a lot.
Man. And so that's
the amount of oil that'll be leaked on the street, because
all of the things, because nobody is coming out there to pressure wash the street when an oil stain is there. You know what I'm saying? None of that. And so keep in mind that the rules may sound very restrictive, but it's to keep the maintenance of the community together, and also to increase and keep your property values the way that they should be, right? Because if the community comes down, then people who care are going to start moving away. They're not going to be involved in the HOA, you know, and, you know, you're going to have this influx, you know, of renters, you know, coming in, you know, and buying and not caring for the community because they're just in and out. And we have to deal with that. We're hitting that threshold of almost 20%, and anything above that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you're on that slippery slope of how if you still have control, you know, of that process of how people view that community with so many renters. And not saying that renters are bad. Like I have some great friends who are really good renters, pay a whole lot of money, you know, for where they live, respect the treat it as their own. But everybody is not going to do that.
I'm a real estate investor, but my primary residence I currently rent because I'm looking to relocate soon.
But I bet you respect it.
Oh, because absolutely. I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem. I even respect my neighbors. Like I have workout equipment, but I put like extra matting on the floor. I ask him his schedule so I can work out when he's woke. Like you have certain people who are very respectful of where they are and others around them. And then you have others who are not, unfortunately. Good information. HOAs are good if you have a competent board. Let the wrong board members move. And that's my thing. But you know what's the thing about it is some of the wrong board members don't know that they're the wrong board members. So in my opinion, running the HOA is like running a business. So you need that same business sense that you would need to run your business. And we all know everybody does not make a good business owner. So I feel like that's how you end up with people. And if they can't manage their own personal finances well, chances are they're not going to manage the board's finances well. So whoever.
You know, and that's another great point. So looking for people who have the skill set. But here's the thing. And here's one of the experiences that I've had, you know, with this one, because it's extremely stressful, right? Because you're managing the
Mhm.
property management company that's supposed to be managing your property. You got to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
They need to
Then
have
you're managing.
classes. Do they have classes that like people can take,
They
like if they're
do.
considering being on the HOA?
Yes. There's a good organization here in my community, in my area, that offers it offers, HOA, support. So that is something. And then the property management company itself, I mean, they send out, newsletters and things like that, different nuggets and things like that. But what tends to happen is people get worn out, right? Either you got that loud one that wants to be involved, all the time. But here's the thing: you can vote people off the board. You can vote people, into the board. But the ones who really have the desire to do it, once they get in and see the amount of work, people don't understand the gravity of work that is involved with, being on the board. So not only are you managing the company, you're making sure that the contractors come and do what they're supposed to do. If the property management company is not doing that, then you have to make sure that, activities are appropriate for all the residents, right? So you got to have a committee to pull together things that make sure that, you can't just have all adult activities or all kiddie activities or all one religious activity or what have you. So trying to make sure that something is, sustainable and amenable to everybody, it's a huge lift, and it takes intelligent, I think, and smart leadership to be able to corral a team of people. You have to know where your gifts and your strengths lie, right? There are some people who are good at strategy. There are some people that are good at doing stuff. I'm not a doer. I'm a strategist. I can look at all of these other things, but if I have a team, man, we are winning.
You
I
can
need
delegate, like, okay,
yeah,
bet.
handle those notes, handle the handle the financials. Let us come together and let me be the one to corral, the people together. But so many people come and they come to the meeting and they're so angry because the property management company didn't do this or the HOA did this. And it could be a whole different board. And so now you have to go and calm everybody down. You know what I'm saying? Renew or like rebuild those relationships, with the community, and then just getting people engaged. You could have like 200 homeowners in a community, and 15 to 16 show up. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That is not representative of the entire community. So there's a whole thing of getting the right people involved,
So I
and
have a question.
those attitudes. Yes.
So we're going to get into, like, right now we're talking about if you're considering purchasing, but
Yeah.
we're going to talk later about if you've already purchased and you're in an HOA, what best practices are.
Okay.
So my question now is, if I'm looking to purchase in an HOA or in a community, a co-op, or anything that has like an HOA or some type of association that runs it in this matter, what are the good things that I should look for while I'm purchasing? Like, if you could give me the top 3 things I should look at when I'm looking to purchase, to say like, you know what? Yes, I'm going to purchase with this HOA, or ooh, no, we're gonna walk away slowly.
Yeah, well, I think clearly that's a good question, Nia. It would be, what are the exact amenities that I'm getting? How much is it? How much is the HOA fees? When are they assessed? Is it an annual or semi-annual, or monthly or quarterly? Excuse me. And what does it cover? Is there anything outside of the common areas that's covered within that HOA? So that's what I would want to know. Somebody come to shovel my snow, cut my grass, put flowers out. I mean, what does it cover? Because you want to hold them accountable for those things when they're supposed to be done as well. So that's what I would look for. Top 3. I can't hear you.
I always turn it off to make sure I'm not interfering with, while I listen to you. So that was some great information. So just to recap before we go into someone who always lives somewhere with the HOA, and of course you all still are able to drop whatever questions you have and we'll answer them during the live. But making sure they're financially sound, we talked about that extensively. Asking what your dues cover. I feel like that was a huge one. That was a huge one right there, because you can't hold them accountable for what they're supposed to do if you don't even know what they're supposed to be doing. You don't know what's included. You can't even hold them accountable because you don't even know what you're supposed to hold them accountable for. But you definitely want to make sure you're reading those rules. As Marcus said, Debt Free Dad said, look at these covenants and restrictions, whatever they've been filed with the clerk's office, because it possibly means they might have things that's already been filed with the clerk's office that might be a red flag for you. So just make yourself as educated as possible so that you can make a decision based on that. And how it's going to align with your goals. If you plan on using it for any type of Airbnb,
that's very important. A lot of restrictions about
Airbnb or any other type of business. Make sure you read those rules to see if that's something you're able to do before you purchase. So thank you. Definitely great tips and great information. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, he said he got to run. I got to run, ladies. Thanks for the valuable information. I can tell cars is an issue for you.
Yes, it is, definitely, Dad. Yes, it is. Okay.
I used to love one guy who used to use his disabled vehicle on the lot looking all ugly. You know what? It's an eyesore.
One of those too. We got one of those.
It's an eyesore. You have this nice, beautiful, lovely community. All the grass is cut nice. All the houses look nice and pretty. Especially like, I have a friend that lives in Atlanta, so I go to Atlanta a lot. And, they were able to pick out like what color their house was. So all of the houses are nice and beautiful. And then you just got this car that's just sitting there.
That part. It's like nobody wants to see that trash. It's like,
so yes, essentially, like Cecilia said, you want to be mindful that it's a method to their madness. They're not just making rules to ruin your life.
Absolutely.
It's possibly somebody else that did something that caused them to create this rule and caused them to realize that this rule had to be created. It's not just to make it hard, but that's just why you want to educate yourself on what those rules are.
It's to make it consistent is what it is. That's what it should. It's consistent and fair.
Good info. You're good stuff. Okay, so now if I've already purchased my house, I've been in my condo or my house or whatever for a while, what things should I be doing to, one, make my experience better with my HOA? We're gonna start with it. We're gonna start off slow.
We're gonna go to the meetings, Nia. We're gonna go to the meetings.
Because how we know what's going on if we're not at the meetings? Okay.
We're going to be present. We are not going to get secondhand information from Miss Jones and Nene them next door. We're going to go.
I can't listen to her sister, cousin, auntie.
No, we're going to go get the information for ourselves, and we're going to get involved. You may not want to necessarily join the board because that's going to be my other, suggestion. But maybe you get involved in a committee. You start slow. First, you attend. Then you go and get involved in a committee. And then you might say, hey, I want to be, sit on the board of directors or whatever for the HOA. But be involved. Be involved.
I think that's a very important one because if you want changes made, if you have issues with current things that are going on, or you feel like it's great ideas you have that can be implemented, none of that will happen, and you won't know anything is going on unless you attend. At very minimum, attend the meetings.
Attend the meeting.
Very minimum, attend the meetings. Yes, I completely agree.
It's your money, and you want to see, where it's going, and and all the things that are involved with that, because we know that as our own cost of living increases, well, Georgia Power is still running these lines out here for us too. So if we haven't personally, we haven't increased, it's going to be an increase in that there. It's going to be, everybody has increased, their services. And so, be a part of the solution. I know that our team here, is very open to, if somebody who does X, Y, and Z, have them submit a bid, for the thing. Now, you ain't trying to hook up, your friends and you can only use this certain kind of, vendor for said thing, but just be a part of the solution. And when you buy a property, you're buying into a community, whether you're an investor or whether you are, a homeowner, you are buying into a community. And it is our responsibility to help to maintain that, because either we're helping to maintain it and improve and increase the values, or we're part of the declining of the community. One of the two. There's no middle ground.
Okay. Come through. So, second thing you said is you would join a board, or you would join a board.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have some people that have an HOA now, and that they may not be super happy with their HOA now, or whatever case may be. What suggestion would you have for them? You've already purchased here. You live here. What things do you think they can do to work to turn that relationship around?
Yeah.
I definitely think, education, becoming more knowledgeable about what roles your board plays and what they actually do. I feel like even though that was a suggestion for someone purchasing, I think that's a suggestion for somebody who's already there. If you don't already know what their exact full role is, you should educate it. If you forget, go read your bylaws again. You can still read them.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Go back to the bylaws, read them.
They're yours, baby.
Because it's one thing to do it on the front end, right? And it's like, okay, so I know this is happening, that is happening, what have you. But now that you're in it, it's like, okay, so what are the things that I feel are, good about this process? What are some things that are antiquated? Is there a process for us, switching from an HOA to a POA? That's a whole nother conversation. But, what does that do? And how do I want to be a part, of that movement? Remember, you're buying into a community. So go back, educate yourself. We're going to always start with the education there. Neither one of us are going to be like, oh, no, it's going to be educate yourself. Okay, this is called what? Buyer beware. Right, absolutely. And then ask somebody, if you don't know, go call your realtor, have them refer you to some organization that really works with HOAs to help you have a better understanding of how to advocate, for yourself and your community, right? Because chances are, if you're thinking of something, that somebody else is probably thinking of that same thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like getting to know some of your neighbors too might be helpful. If you get to know, some of the people in the community, get to know the person who has been there the longest, or whoever the president of your board is, get to know them. They should be able to answer a lot of your questions. If they're good, if it's a good board, they'll be able to answer a lot of your questions.
Yeah, because you're right. Because at the end of the day, these people are your neighbors, right?
And we more than your neighbors, because you all are part of a special, association together too. So they're a little bit more than your neighbors.
Yeah, and I think
it's about roof together. Y'all got to maintain a pool together. You all are doing a lot together.
All the things, and and I would say this in the at the most minimal level. Again, I'm going back to community, right? Is that when you see something that is wrong in your neighborhood, you don't wait to call the trash person. If you walking your dog in the neighborhood and you see some trash, just pick up the trash. If you see somebody's mail and fill out their box, just scoop it up and just push it back in. I know we're not supposed to touch people's mail, but that kind of care, people will see that, and that will, transform you into something else. So just
come here and be an active member of your community.
Be an active member.
Not saying that you have to go like start a new resource group for the community or anything like that, but just be an active member of your community. As you get more involved, you'll just learn more about the association and what it does, what its role is, and how you can make it work better for you.
Yep. And and finding your fit too, Nia, it's you may be good at making flyers. You may be good at putting together a Facebook group. You may be good at putting a welcome sign up at the front. Well, the president of the board may not have that skill set, or the vice president may not have that skill set. And it's like, look, we got to make sure these financials are together. People have different, and when I say different agendas, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it in a good way. People have different skill sets, different motivations.
Right, because I'll make a flyer if that means you're going to run my financials better. I'm not going to have to worry about my money being fraudulently embezzled. Oh, yes. How many flyers you shoot me?
Right. This part. So whatever skill set you have, bring that to the board, to the committee or whatever, and get engaged. And here's the thing. When you have people, you might have somebody, a board that's doing some shady stuff, right? And so if you position yourself as an interested engaged community person and not somebody coming in like, oh, I'm finna blow this joint up. They stealing my money.
Like, put my braids to the back like Queen Latifah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I just want to make some flyers, And so now
you know what?
Mm-hmm.
You make a very good point too, because typically, I work in fraud in my 9 to 5. And typically when you have fraud is most successful when there are nobody looking.
Ain't nobody looking.
Most successful when it is a condo association or a homeowners association, and nobody is active, nobody is engaged. That one person is just running the board all by themselves with nobody else to be knowledgeable about what's going on there, because they might not intend to defraud the association. It could have just started with they had one little mistake or one little financial thing that they wanted to clean up. So they did it, and then they realized, wow, nobody even know that I did that, or nobody even paid attention that I did that. And then it goes from there, and it spirals into.
Absolutely.
It's not always somebody who's just maliciously, intending to commit fraud. A lot of times it starts off as just one little time. I'm just gonna do this one little time, but then it was so easy. It was like, well, maybe I'll do it again.
Right. Exactly. And then they're active
and letting them know that you're paying attention. I think that's a great weapon.
Absolutely. Because we had some very actively engaged residents here, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that, and we were looking at the budget, right? But he had a skill set that I didn't have, right? I may be personal finance guru, but financial statements is not like my jam. So I position myself to be in spaces like this to learn more about, the process. But we know at the end of the day, it's like, okay, so these are all the expenses. These are all the this is all the revenue coming in. This is what it was last year. This is what it is this year. That's easy peasy. I can look at that and be like, okay, the math ain't mathing. Okay, why are we paying more for this than we did, last year, but we're getting less service? And those are the kinds of things that can be very, very, invigorating and empowering when you come in and ask those intelligent questions. And any board should be able to answer those questions.
I just thought of something else. Another reason to get active with your board is job experience.
Okay.
If you're looking to do something, working on the board can give you viable work experience that can go on your resume.
Girl, yes,
and make you active in your community. Like you said, you're not familiar with financial statements. Me, I have a finance degree, so of course financial statements. But if I wasn't, but I wanted to, because I have a job that I wanted to get, working on the board would help me, one, learn about them, express the interest, and be able to really learn. And at the same time, I would be being active and proactive in my community and learning more about where I live, because it's yours. Like, you live there. This is your community. It's your community, your bylaws, your rules, your covenants, all of the above. They all belong to you because you are a member of this community. So it's just, I feel like it's very helpful to you. And it seems like the theme, whether you're purchasing or you already live there, is to educate yourself and be more actively engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It is. And you can always bring, new ideas too. That's the other thing about being, if you're in the community and you see things that, you want to see changed. I know, and I'm not going to quit until we get a welcome kit. Like, I'm like, I want a welcome packet for the people.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, just, we got a grocery store up the street. Can we get a $25 grocery card? Can we get just here's the list of when the board meets, here's when the pool opens, here's how you do X, Y, and Z.
That would be very nice if I'm moving in to give me, instead of me having to find all that out on my own and just, this is my favorite thing. Because that's how life feels like a lot of times.
Yes. And so, even though I'm not active now, I'm not active on the board, that's still going to be my push for this year. I'm going to be the welcome kit queen. Here's a letter. Here are the board members. Here's how you pay your dues. Here's a screenshot. Here's all the things.
Another thing you want to be mindful of is the selling process. So if they have any rules related to you selling it, I've seen some boards down in Florida that when you are selling the property, they put the new buyer through a lot of stuff.
Interesting.
Like, they might put the buyer through their own additional screening. separate from the bank. And the buyer will have to, pass through their screening as well as the bank. And some buyers don't want to deal with that. And depending on what market you in, some buyers might just go with another option. But it's just important for you to think about those things, because when you're making a purchase, you should always consider the possibility of resale, and you want to make sure that you're able to resell.
Right. Now, okay, so as long as it's not racially motivated or anything like that.
Right. As long as you already know. Yeah. As long as it's not racially motivated. But I don't know. We are talking about Florida.
But I'm not mad at, like, let me come and meet who trying to, move up in here. Right. Just something about that just seem a little bit okay. Now, I don't want to restrict, somebody from selling their property, but if it's done in good faith, yes. But I kind of believe that it's probably not done, in good faith. It's like we want to control, who can live here.
That's what I think it is. It's more so they want to control.
It
was somebody I know. She moved from Florida to Chicago, and she was getting rid of her townhouse in Florida, and they put the buyers. It was a pain. Her trying to sell.
Yeah. So I don't know that is, I don't believe that is the process here, because when I purchased here, it was just that, here are the covenants, and make sure you sign every page. We need you to understand what you're coming into, and there were still some things that I missed, for example,
I still think it's good that they do that.
Yeah. You may have something, because here's one of the things that I couldn't understand that our president was making a big stink about. He was like, this house right here, they didn't submit their requests. The ARC is the architectural design request for the roof. And I'm like, Junior, ain't nobody going around here spending no 20 grand to get the wrong roof on their house. So what's the big deal, right? So there was a certain grade of shingle that had to be used. And so it was more that then you need to make sure that they're using the proper grade. Now that you could be totally ignorant to that if you don't know, if you never had a roof replaced. You're just like, hey, give me what works, give me this one because this is a little bit cheaper, and then you're not getting the same quality. So for me, I was just like, wow, thank you for sharing that, because I'm like, no one's just going. It was tons of people getting new roofs, not because it was cheap, but
the next part too is when you're doing construction. Typically the contractor gets the permits, but you also want to do your double check. I've also seen, this was actually in Atlanta, somebody who was doing construction on their basement. And she is doing construction on her basement, and she was supposed to have 5 permits, but apparently her neighbor noticed that she only had 4. So she had, problems, and she had to tear all that had been completed. She had to have the contractor go and demolish it and then start from scratch based on that 1 permit not being. But she didn't know. She thought, obviously if she got 4 permits, it wasn't, intentional. So it's just a learning lesson. Like, make sure you also learn what permits are going to be required. Of course, the contractor will help you do that. But those are the type of things, like, because a lot of times, depending on what community, I think it's a big one for Florida, probably, because you probably have a lot of retired people in your community who have the time to notice that you have 1 less permit, things like that. So
and the benefit to that, and it may sound like a hassle, right? But here's the thing:
it's not like an expense.
Yeah, it's going back into protecting the asset. So if you have, Pookie Lee coming here doing your contractor work in the basement, and Pookie Lee don't have all of his licenses, right? And so if he does a botched job and doesn't have the permitting process and the proper things in place, the renovation could be unsafe. Renovation may cost, the next homeowner, something else, and so it's like you see why CYAing yourself, even though it may sound like a hassle. Now we had somebody here, they did a whole renovation to the back, and I was like, well, this is nice. I was like, I sure didn't see this come through the request, the ARC request. So I had to
Right. My files.
like, neighbor, did you? And it was like, yeah, look, here's all my stuff. Well, that became an issue with the property management company that did not forward us that request, right? So guess what happens? If the board doesn't respond within 30 days per our covenant, you get to go on and do what you're going to do. And then that becomes a legal matter later on if it violates the architectural design, process or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, like this is, I mean, it's two sides to every story, and so, yeah, you just want to make sure that if you are part of that committee,
right,
that everything is fair, across the board. And like I said, it's been so tiring to manage the property management company that you're paying to manage the property. So you have to take time to be like, okay, let's fire them. Let somebody else, and hopefully they do a better job. They might be more, so it's a chance that you take, right? But you got to have those things in place to have that communication with all parties in order for it to work. So, but yeah.
Okay.
There's layers to this thing.
Exactly. So you see, it's a lot to it, and it's a lot of information for you to be mindful of. And it's just another reason for you to educate yourself if you're looking to purchase, and educate yourself if you are already in a situation where you have an HOA. Learning the rules and learning what's what and what's not it can just open a whole new world for you as far as your experience in that community. What you might find some things that you're able to do that you didn't know you were able to do. You didn't know were a possibility. So that's where that being an active community member and get to know your neighbor. All those things can work in your favor and really help you out. I mean, and then I think it's good too for your children. If they have children and you do, they're finding children in their own community that they can play with outside. So it becomes a more engaging experience, I think, and it becomes a better environment for you. So I want to say thank you so much for coming, y'all. She shares so much information. If you are considering moving somewhere with an HOA or already have one, you definitely learned a lot today. And if you have any additional questions, you already know, let us know and we'll do our best to answer them. Please let them know where they can find you.
Okay. Well, I'm on all platforms. Well, I shouldn't say all. Do not lie, Cecilia. Instagram, Cecilia R. Bailey. Facebook, I believe it's the same. Y'all can tell I'm just like real social media savvy here, right? Yes, Cecilia Rutledge Bailey on Facebook, and that's about all I used.
Okay. So somebody said very good information. Definitely learned a lot.
Thank you, Facebook user.
Great information.
Good.
Yeah, so good stuff. I'm glad. I always try to make sure I provide things that are helpful. This is one of the reasons why I started the Money Master Academy, because it's so many different things that we need to learn in order to be a good steward of our overall finances. And nobody has the money to pay 50,000 consultation fees. So providing this one place where you can get enough information to know what your next step should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable to have, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. So if nobody has any additional questions, I'm going to go ahead and go because I'm packed, but clothes are not in my luggage. So they're in my packing cubes.
Okay, love those. Love cubes. Love the
I need
cubes.
to give me some compression ones, but I just need to put it in my luggage now. So that's what I'm going to do now, which shouldn't take long. And then I want to relax because I leave at 5 a.m. So,
yes.
Yeah, I have to get.
Well, have fun. I have not planned my first vacation for the year, so.
Oh, girl, come on.
I know, right? Well, I will be in Chicago a couple times this year, so I'm gonna see if you.
Yes, let me know. Definitely let me know. Let me know as soon as you have your dates, if possible.
Well, I got one date. I'll text them to you. I got two.
Yeah, to make sure I'm here.
I know why you said because you be gone. Child, your middle
I
name
saw
Mia Gone Adams, honey.
they call me Carmen Sandiego. Orchestra Noir is in Dallas.
Okay.
March 11th, I saw a TikTok, and they were a vibe.
Orchestra Noir. Okay. Okay, is in Dallas. Orchestra Noir. Okay.
So they're in different cities. They were actually just in Atlanta. They were in Atlanta, and then I looked them up. So they have a show in Dallas coming and a show somewhere else, and I booked it.
Okay, in Dallas in March, you said?
I already booked my flight, my hotel.
Okay.
No game to play.
Yeah, none. You ain't playing none with nobody. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna look into that. I got a friend in Dallas.
It looked like it's gonna be really nice, and they're doing 90s music, so that should be a vibe.
Oh yes, I know the words to those songs. Yes.
Exactly. Same. So thank you so much for coming. Learned a lot. Another one learned a lot. Thank you.
Cool.
Good stuff.
See you.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Have fun.